What is up, my dashing dudes? I am the Hans TV, and before we get into this video, I just wanted to let y'all know that I do have a Discord server, link in the description. On there we have hangouts, we have meme chats, and we have my favorite, legendary quotes. So if you want to join, just click the link. But with that being said, let's get right into ProRevenge. Our first post for the day comes from Tough Plankton. The traffic tickets became the least of his problems. A few years back, my old car was on its last legs. My mechanic said it wouldn't last much longer and the best thing to do was sell it cheap and move on before it gave out and was ready to be scrapped. I loved that little car, but I put it up on Craigslist for $500 and got a bite. The guy buying it was in his 20s with a pregnant wife and his dad was footing the bill. I was clear with him that it was sold as is and I couldn't make any promises about its longevity. The buyer said that if it lasted 6 months he'd be happy with the purchase. So he signed the bill of sale and I handed over the title. I immediately went to the DMV website and registered it as a sale, and assumed he would finish the process by transferring the title. Turns out, I was wrong about two things. The car lasted much longer than 6 months, and he didn't bother to pay the $77 to transfer the title. I discovered this when I received a photo radar ticket for running a red light. I was confused because the street was way across town in an area I rarely visit. When I went online to view the high-res traffic cam photos, I found it was the buyer in my old car, but my name was still attached to the plates. After some serious cursing, I copied all the records, dates, bill of sale, etc., and mailed copies off to the courthouse. It was his citation, but I had to prove it to the court. 2 weeks later, I got another letter from the fuzz. Another ticket, this time for speeding. Same driver, same car, same plates with my name still attached. Again, I had to copy all the paperwork, write a long letter to the clerk, and mail it all off to the courthouse. The third ticket made me mad. I started making calls, and discovered that this scam is pretty common. Some folks buy a junker and rack up fines until they wreck or abandon the car, and their name was never on it, so nobody bothers to punish them for it. It's all on the previous owner to clean up the mess and prove who was at fault. This time I wrote an extra long letter to the court clerk and did a little research to include the guy's picture, home address, and listed phone number. A few months went by and I thought it was over. Hell, the car should have given out by now anyway. Then, the fourth ticket arrived, showing him in high res zipping past a radar cam in my old car with my old bumper sticker still on the back. Giant Meteor 2016, and all his kids piled into the back seat. The fifth and sixth tickets felt like Groundhog Day. I didn't even bother to put the paperwork away. I kept it on my desk ready to copy. By the time the seventh ticket arrived, we were all over a year beyond the sale, and enough was enough. This wasn't just some dude forgetting to do some paperwork, or not knowing the right way to go about buying a car. This was intentional, and it was time for some pro-revenge. First, I called the police, and after a week of back and forth, finally spoke with a traffic cop who said, "Enough is enough," and went to pay the guy a visit. He said he couldn't disclose what would happen during that discussion, but the total amount of the likely unpaid traffic tickets was enough to get his attention. The tickets and late fees were several times the value of the car. That wasn't enough. Just having to pay his tickets wasn't appropriate for the 7 freaking times I had to copy that damned bill of sale for the court clerk. So I started to go back through my records of every ticket and every photo, and I found an interesting theme. In every photo, his tiny kids were in the car, including the newborn infant, all packed into the back seat. I called Child Protective Services anonymously. I didn't provide any information that was not 100% factual and verifiable. The tickets showed that this guy was operating an identity fraud scheme out of his home, essentially stealing my identity and who knows how many others. His children were present throughout. Furthermore, he regularly violated traffic rules and put his children in serious danger by speeding, running red lights, and committing other traffic violations. If he was doing this stuff so often in front of a big white camera, how do you think he was driving when he wasn't being watched? I declined to provide my name or phone number as I had nothing more to offer and didn't want to be involved in the case any further. I gave them all the evidence I had of 3 small children in repeated dangerous and illegal situations, all of which were verifiable by photo evidence and court documents. After that, I stopped getting traffic tickets from him. Maybe the car finally gave out. So not only is he going to go to jail for the speeding tickets and the running the red lights and not paying them, he's going to jail because he committed a felony in identity fraud. Good job, OP. That is what I call some pro-revenge. Our next post comes from T-Spartan22. 4 days of misery for 8 months of my life. Prequel. Google and read Amazon reviews Haribo sugar-free gummy bears. If you don't want to do that, I'll reference you this. Laxative. Powerful laxative. Setting. In the military, somewhere east of Germany. 6 months into tour. Everyone is starting to hate each other because you eat, sleep, drink, work, and play together. We really disliked some of the groups we deployed with. There was fraternization, bad-mouthing, selective rule application, and more. 98% of the misery can be tracked back to a certain person we will call Lucky the Leprechaun. George and I are in the same section and work together. There had been some grumbling as to our work ethic, because after several months of working 9 to 10-hour days, our systems had redundancies, so our tickets were spread out. George found the reviews for the Haribo sugar-free gummy bears, and we were laughing ourselves hoarse when inspiration strikes. I decided to buy some and leave a bowl of them in the mayor's cell office, like the super that everyone hates. Unfortunately, no dice. These gummy bears have been discontinued for like 5 years. A couple of days go by, and I wonder if any other sugar-free products had the same effect. So after Google sleuthing, I found this Albanese company. They apparently use the same recipe as Haribo, judging from their online reviews. The downside is they come in 5-pound bags or bigger. I ordered them. I had no real concrete plan for deployment at the time. I ordered them, I just did it. It was perfect. Military mail being what it is, I expected 2 or 3 weeks to pass before I got them. I was leaving soon for a couple of weeks. These gummies were supposed to be there when I got back. I didn't know if they airdropped these onto my base, but I got them in record time, the day I was leaving. I opened the package thinking it was something else, and I see the bears. 2 things occur to me. I have to get rid of these, and there is a warning label on them. Thinking the jig is up, I place them in the office of the people grumbling about our work ethic and leave. 4 days later, I am explaining the inner working of some piece of military equipment when I get the text, Lucky the Leprechaun has been peeing out of his ass for 4 days. It takes a solid 10 seconds of looking at the text before realization hits. I got the full story when I returned from my time away. Apparently, someone in the grumbly office, ignoring the warning label, opened the gummy bears and eats a couple, which prompted a feeding frenzy, and over the course of 3 days, almost 4 pounds of gummy bears is consumed. It took 11 people 3 days to correlate frequent, violent bathroom breaks with the chewy little morsels they were gorging on. There is only 9 bathroom stalls in our immediate vicinity. Now that's dirty. That's nasty. Our final post comes from Pikatira, entitled Neighbor Threatens Dog, and I Break. I would too, OP. Years ago, my mother and I had just moved to a new dog-friendly apartment complex. We had 2 dogs. One was a Bichon Shih Tzu, and the other is a Terrier Poodle mix. Because of them, we were excited for the community dog park right next to our building. Also to note, our whole building was filled with dog owners, each with dogs ranging from small to huge. Our apartment was on the first floor in the back of the building, all the way in the corner. It was a nice private area for us with how the apartments were situated. Since one of our dogs is a terrier, he can be a bit barky when we are not home. Though when we are home, we have a clicker to get his attention, which he has been trained to stop barking and come to whoever has the clicker. Due to our work hours, I was usually home in the morning and Mom was home in the afternoon, leaving him alone for a few hours during the day. After a month of moving to our new apartment, we received a note on our door. It was from one of our neighbors. It stated, "Dear neighbor, I understand that you are new to this complex, but it is rude to allow your dog to bark. It is ruining my sleep before I go to work, and my job is extremely important. I don't care how you do it, but shut your dog up." My mom turned in the note right away to the leasing office, as she wasn't sure what to do with it. That is when the office told us not to worry, because he had done this to every dog owner in the building. They did ask us to see if we can find ways to calm him down when we were not home. So we did. We found out the kids of the neighborhood liked playing with the power station outside our apartment, and that is who he'd been barking at. So we closed off that area for him when we went out and no one was home. We started playing calming music as a way to help as well. Another week goes by, and this time we hear a knock at the door. We go outside and we meet our angry neighbor. He explains that our dog has kept him up every day and woke him up with hours of barking. Both of us had been home that day, and our dog had been a good boy and had not had excessive barking. I still remember what he had told us when I explained that. "I know what I heard. If you can't control your dog, then I'm going to call animal control and have them both taken from you. I did it before and have no problem getting rid of your dogs too. Then I'll get you kicked out for not following your lease. And I can do that because I am very rich and the apartment needs my money. So do something to shut your dogs up or else. After that, and my mom apologizing for what had happened, we went back in. A few moments later, I walked out to get the mail and discovered from another neighbor that he had gone to 3 other apartments and made similar threats. After some convincing, my mom told the apartment what had happened. We were told not to worry, and if he did that again to please contact them. We also found out that the apartment had offered him an apartment away from the dogs, but he had declined since the dogs were the problem and not him. However, with what he had done, my mom began to show signs of anxiety and bought a lemon spray bark collar for our dog. While I didn't like this idea, it had put her at ease to go outside our apartment. We did make sure to only put it on him when we were both not home. A month went by peacefully. Then once again we got a knock on our door. This time it was animal control. They had gotten an anonymous report of a dog being abused and neglected in our home. They explained that someone had said that our dogs were barking because of neglect. My mom invited the AC lady inside and explained the situation. We showed her everything we could to prevent our dogs from being taken away. The nice lady noticed how playful and happy our dogs were and figured it was another false call. She explained that they had gotten a few of those from an anonymous concerned neighbor for other apartments in this building. The AC lady left, telling us that if they are threatened again, to try and get it on record. This event had turned my mom into a paranoid person who became afraid to leave the house, thinking that if she did, then she would lose her pups. Normally, I am the calmest person in my family, never really letting anyone get to me. But this neighbor had did this to hurt us. So I did my research and discovered a few things that could legally help us. With no information on certain laws and leasing terms, I formed a plan. During a weekend that my mom was visiting my aunt in a different state, I began my plan. I started it by printing out a few things and then sat outside with my phone and a speaker. I began to play a video of a dog barking really loud. I had figured out which apartment was his thanks to a few neighbors, who were also tired of being harassed. I sat there, looking across the courtyard to where his apartment was. I waited with a huge smile on my face. As I hoped for, he stormed out and headed over to where I was. I turned off my video and turned on my recorder without him noticing. His face is red with anger, as he looks at me sitting there with a smile. "I'm sorry. Can I help you?" I ask him. "Fuck you. I effing told you what I will do to your family if you effing didn't stop your dumbass mutt from ruining my sleep. Now I'm going to get them taken from you and get you kicked out for not doing as I said. I gave you a effing chance. I hope when they take your dogs, they are effing killed and you and your mom live inside a cardboard box." I gave him a fake, "Oh dear," look and say, "So you are saying that I am not allowed to make loud noises, including my dogs barking, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., and that I went against the law by doing so? You know you did. And you were telling me this from my porch at 2 p.m. in the afternoon? This won't be your porch once I tell the leasing office." Oh no. That is a very serious threat for my dogs and my family, isn't it? Yes it is. I gave him a huge smile and turned off my recorder from my phone. The neighbor is confused now, and I ask him to have a seat. I have a few things to show him. I pull out my papers and hand him the first one. It was the county's noise ordinance laws. In our county, a dog's bark was considered the same amount of sound as a loud appliance, so they can bark between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. Before he can talk, I pull out another paper. This one states that it is against the leasing terms to threaten another neighbor, and after one warning, the apartment complex had the right to revoke their lease. He looks at me with an understanding of what he had done now. I silence him and pull out one last paper. This one was another leasing term I had found. This face, after reading this one, made him turn white. This last one talked about how it was a complete violation of leasing terms to go onto another renter's property and threaten them or their property. This included the renter's outdoor area. Those found guilty of this violation will have their lease revoked immediately and be forced to leave the apartment within a set time. The scared look on his face was priceless as I silently got up and walked back to my apartment. After he finally left, I called the leasing office and explained what had just happened and agreed to email the recording to them right away. A week later, my mom came home with some news that she had learned from the leasing office. The man had been evicted from his apartment and would be leaving later that week. I found out that my actions had caused the other dog owners of the building to come forward and admit that he had been doing to all of them. After that, there was never another complaint, and I threw away the lemon spray collar. My mom still gets anxiety attacks once in a while, but has been getting help to ease those worries. As for me, I don't regret what I did. I just feel bad that it had to come to this.
I'm rich. I can get you evicted from your apartment for no damn reason.
Yeah, that turned out well for you, buddy. Well, alright my dashing dudes, I feel like that is enough infuriation for today, so that's going to do it for today's episode of r/ProRevenge. I hope you liked the stories, and if you did, I'll link them down in the description as always. And if you liked the video, subscribe, share, drop a like and a comment down below with what you'd like to see me read next. A huge thank you to everyone who has subscribed in the past few months. It's a humongous pleasure of mine to be able to make content that you like. But with that being said, I will see you in the next video.